Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Tensei Shitara Slime Dataken light novel summary series on AniMonolith. Picking up from the previous episode, inside the control room, chaos was unfolding. Cornu's sudden appearance proved to be even more troublesome than Zelario, and the situation continued to spiral downward. When Alpha reported that Cornu's existence value was originally 1.8 million, but after equipping mythical grade gear had skyrocketed to 2.8 million, Ramirez could only shout in frustration. It was practically cheating. Beretta explained that mythical grade equipment grants incredible boost to those recognized as its wielder. Albert had been a clear example. His existence value had jumped from 180,000 to over 400,000. And even then, he still hadn't tapped into its full potential. Thinking about it, Ramirez realized just how terrifying such equipment was in the hands of their enemies, while also feeling awe at Kurobe's ability to forge items of that level. The battlefield situation, however, was grim. Trainee and Cheris were struggling against Zelario, while Venom's group had little chance of holding out against Cornu. What surprised Ramirez the most was minutes. Despite having an existence value of less than 10,000, he had somehow managed to use his lost unique skill oppressor again. Even stranger was Calgurio, whose existence value kept rising, now exceeding 400,000, an unexplained phenomenon. Ramirez wanted to analyze these mysteries, but this was no time for curiosity. Forcing herself to focus, she gave the order. Even if the fighters died, she would revive them, so they should fight with everything they had. The main priority, however, was Masayuki. If he died, he would revive here, but if he was captured, it would all be over. Evacuating him was the safest option. Fortunately, Alpha reported that Bernie had already taken action and was escorting Masayuki out, even without direct orders. Relieved, Ramirez thought this was for the best. Masayuki was timid and would never have the courage to commit suicide to escape, but with Bernie at his side, she could feel reassured. Her only instruction was, bring Masayuki here, and if anything went wrong, just do what you must. Alpha relayed the order immediately through the encrypted telepathy net. Breathing a sigh of relief, Ramirez returned her attention to the monitoring screens. Everywhere she looked, her allies were struggling. She couldn't help but think, without Rimuru, we're really powerless. Beretta agreed, adding that if the Guardians had been awake, they wouldn't be at such a disadvantage, but there was no point in lamenting. Ramirez resolved to do everything in her power to protect Tempest. At that moment, Beta shouted an emergency report. The supply of magicules from Veldora had been cut off. The city would fall back to the surface within 10 minutes. The announcement was like a thunderclap to Ramirez. Did that mean Veldora had been defeated? It was hard to believe, but with Velgrind as his opponent, it was unfortunately possible. Luckily, the citizens had already been evacuated down to the 95th floor, so Ramirez felt a bit of relief and prepared to raise the city back to the surface. But just as she made up her mind, Beta pointed out another problem that made her freeze. Since the city was now empty, its automatic defense functions wouldn't activate. That meant if it got caught up in stray attacks, the entire city could be destroyed. Ramirez clenched her teeth helplessly. Deep down, she thought to herself, if it were Rimuru, he'd just laugh it off and say, if it breaks, we'll rebuild it again. With no better options, she decided to take the risk and return the city to the surface, praying that it wouldn't be completely destroyed. Before she could act, Delta reported another crisis. Two powerful enemies had appeared on the surface. Their exact existence values couldn't be measured outside the labyrinth, but both were estimated to exceed 1 million. The screen was enlarged, revealing two fallen angels, one a tall, muscular warrior, the other a smaller but beautiful girl. Both bore 3 pairs of jet black wings. Ramirez almost fainted on the spot. 3 pairs of wings, that makes them Seraphim Class 2. Which means, together with Cornu and Zelario, Tempest is now facing 4 of the original 7 Seraphim, beings even stronger than awakened demon lords. Panic-stricken, she darted around the room like a child, completely overwhelmed. Grasping at straws, she asked Delta if there was any chance they weren't enemies. But Delta's response shattered that hope. The two were actively interfering with the labyrinth's regeneration process, preventing the hole Velgrind had opened from closing. If left unchecked, the labyrinth itself could collapse. Hearing that, Ramirez slumped powerlessly onto Beretta's shoulder, despair creeping in. And then, leave the surface to me. The city bearing Rimuru-sama's name will not fall so easily. A familiar voice rang out. It was Geld, newly awakened from his evolutionary slumber. Ramirez burst into tears of joy. Alpha quickly reported his existence value, with equipment, 2.37 million. His once legendary armor had evolved into mythical grade during his awakening. Everyone marveled at Rimuru's foresight in bestowing such blessings, though in reality, Rimuru had simply acted on instinct, not on some master plan. Almost immediately after, another figure stirred awake. Kumara. Alpha announced her existence value, 1.9 million, and that was without equipment. With both Geld and Kumara stepping onto the battlefield, the two Seraphim-class fallen angels could be confronted head-on. Sure enough, a fierce clash erupted on the surface. The battles were evenly matched, but thanks to the defensive barriers deployed by Geld's subordinates, the city was spared from collateral damage. For the first time in what felt like forever, Ramirez's heart filled with hope. "Now we can win this!" she cheered, and Beretta allowed himself a small breath of relief. But the relief was short-lived. Feldway's scheme was far from over. In fact, everything so far had been mere preparation. His real ace was about to make its move. Without anyone noticing, Dino had slipped into the control room. He looked as unmotivated as always, but his presence was ominous. The first to react was Shinji, who suddenly cried out, "Dino-sama? Well, what are you trying to do?" The moment Dino stood, everyone's attention snapped to him. As if caught in the act, he suddenly reached toward Ramirez with incredible speed. But before he could lay a hand on her, Beretta intercepted him. The failed attempt made Dino click his tongue in regret. He had intended to end things quickly and quietly, but thanks to Shinji's warning, his plan had been exposed. "You really surprised me," Dino admitted, looking at Shinji. "I was wary of you from the start and waited patiently for the perfect moment. Guess I underestimated you." It was no empty compliment. Very few people in the world could have seen through Dino's actions. After a weary sigh, he turned his sharp gaze on Beretta, making it clear that this wasn't one of his usual lazy pranks. The atmosphere in the control room grew tense. Alpha and the others moved to surround Dino, while Beretta lifted Ramirez onto his shoulder to shield her. Ramirez, however, only blinked in confusion, glancing back and forth between Beretta and Dino, completely lost. Just then, Shinji noticed something strange. Except for Beretta and Ramirez, everyone else in the room had collapsed into sleep. "Hey, this is your doing, isn't it, Dino?" Shinji demanded. Unfazed, Dino gave a lazy shrug. "Yeah, but you resisting it? That's impressive, Shinji. Didn't think you had it in you." Shinji grimaced at the half-compliment, but Dino didn't bother looking his way anymore. His attention was locked firmly on Ramirez. "Ramirez, I'll be direct. Why don't you cooperate with us? I don't want to rough you up. If you come along quietly, I'll treat you well. No pointless bloodshed, no wasted effort." Doesn't that sound better? Needless to say, Ramirez rejected him outright. "What are you babbling about? Rimuru will beat you to a pulp when he comes back." Dino could only laugh bitterly at her defiance. "That's what I figured you'd say. Still, this is my mission. I don't have the luxury to back down. I'm a Watcher, after all." Ramirez froze. "Wait, the Watcher? You mean you're one of the 7 primordial angels under Veldanava-sama?" "Correct," Dino replied calmly. "I was once one of the primordials. After Feldway and the others departed for the other world, I was left behind to observe this one." The revelation shocked Ramirez to her core. She had always assumed Dino was just another unreliable demon lord like herself, never imagining he had once been one of Veldanava's chosen. To think he was even named by Veldanava. Incidentally, Ramirez had also been named by Veldanava, but she had forgotten all about it due to being reincarnated too many times. She would remember everything once she became whole, but she did not know when that would be. "But I thought all the originals left this world?" she muttered in disbelief. "No," Dino shook his head. When this world had finally achieved peace, Veldanava-sama turned his eyes to bringing stability to the other worlds. Surely you already knew that much. Ramirez blinked in confusion at Dino's half-hearted explanation. He clearly couldn't be bothered to go into detail, brushing off the important parts as if they didn't matter. With a sigh, he explained that Feldway and 3 other primordial angels had gone to the other world to maintain peace, while he and 2 others had remained behind. But after a certain incident, they had all fallen from grace, turning from seraphim into fallen angels. Wait, you skipped the most important part. That's what everyone wants to know," Ramirez immediately protested. But Dino only frowned in irritation. "That's not important. Just use your imagination for the details. Let's get back to the real point. Negotiation." For Beretta and Shinji, Dino's words were overwhelming enough that their brains already felt overloaded. Only Ramirez still clung to the important parts he brushed aside. Still, she took the lead in asking the question that mattered. So, what exactly do you mean by negotiation? Dino's answer was blunt. It's simple. If you cooperate, I swear I won't touch anyone in this labyrinth. But if you refuse, I'll have to kidnap you, even if it means cutting down anyone who gets in my way. Of course I won't agree to that, Ramirez shot back. Well, I figured as much. But either way, the labyrinth is the key. With your compliance, it's easy. Without it, things get rough, but the outcome is the same. That was when Ramirez narrowed her eyes and asked the question no one else dared. This isn't what you want, is it? Who ordered you to do this? I thought the only one who could command you was Guy. Dino smirked faintly. That's just what people assume. Guy and I stand on equal footing. Why should I take his orders? But Ramirez pressed further, ignoring his excuses. Then it must be Feldway. He came back from the other world, didn't he? You couldn't resist him. It was a shot in the dark, but once again, Detective Ramirez had stumbled onto the truth. Dino gave a wry smile. Amazing. You're actually right this time. He admitted that Feldway had set two objectives: assassinate Masayuki and destroy the labyrinth. The second task was the greater risk, which was why Feldway had targeted Ramirez herself. Even though Dino hadn't had direct contact with Feldway in ages, the weight of their old bond still compelled him to obey. Ramirez immediately tried to sway him. If it's like that, then just ignore his orders and join our side. You don't have to do this. But Dino shook his head. Sorry, but I can't. Even I don't fully understand why. But I can't defy Feldway. Ramirez bristled, determination sparking in her voice. So, you're serious after all? Fine, then I'll deal with you myself. I may be small, but I'm one of the Octogram too. And until Rimuru returns, I'll protect this place. Dino's expression softened back into his usual lazy grin. So it seems. Honestly, I hate working. An ideal world is one where I can just eat and sleep all day, but it can't be helped. I won't kill you, so just try your best to get rid of me. With that, the negotiations ended. Words had failed. The fourth battle within the labyrinth was about to begin, and that wraps up the events for today's video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again in the next episode on AniMonolith.